On the Schiller Institute website, we have a petition for calling for the declassification of all documents related to the British interference in the US election, which was improperly assigned to Russia by the Obama intelligence community. But the interference was really from Britain. Now, apparently, the British are continuing to be fearful that their role in this will be exposed. The Daily Telegraph has reported it. Comey and Loretta Lynch are being subpoenaed by Republicans while they still have control of committees in the House of Representatives. Helga, how important is it that this declassification of documents related to the British role that this be carried through?
Well, I think it is absolutely essential because, I mean, first of all, you had an interference in the election process, not by Russia, but by the so-called best ally, Great Britain. And, there's this article you referred to in the Daily Telegraph, I think it was yesterday, is really a massive public effort to put pressure on the Trump administration not to declassify these documents, with the argument that this would jeopardize the intelligence sharing, and that it's especially the UK and Australia, which make super pressure that declassification should not occur. But if America wants to find back to its identity as a republic devoted to the common good of the citizens, well, then I think this is absolutely, absolutely important and essential, because the subversion, of the American establishment by the idea of the British Empire. This was after the British recognized that they could not reconquer the United States militarily after the War of 1812, and then naturally the Confederacy War against Lincoln. They basically decided that they have to convince the American establishment to go with the idea of the British Empire based on the Anglo-American special relationship to run the world. And after the Soviet Union collapsed, this idea was brought forward very strongly again with the idea of an unipolar world, meaning a world empire. And, Fukuyama talked about that this is the end of history. Now the whole world will become democratic. And this was then also the logic, sorry, behind some of the wars based on lies: the Iraqi war, the Afghanistan war, the war against Libya, Syria. And, just now reports have come out that just militarily, more than half a million people died, and innumerous numbers in terms of indirect consequences of loss of health, loss of livelihood, mental and physical diseases. But over half a million people died directly militarily through these wars. Now, all of these wars were leading to a terrible destruction, and we see still the consequences in terms of terrorism, in terms of poverty, in terms of absolutely out of control situation. So I think it is really important that this stops, that America goes back to its original conception of Benjamin Franklin, of the founding fathers, of John Quincy Adams, of Lincoln, of Franklin D. Roosevelt, of John F. Kennedy. And this is just completely incompatible with the acceptance that this kind of subversion and coup against an elected president, who is hated by the establishment so much simply because he responds to the American population, that they're really headed with the policies of Wall Street. So I think it's absolutely, in the larger historical context, the declassification of these documents is absolutely vital, not only for the United States, but for the whole world. And Russian Foreign Minister Lavrov keeps referring to it, the big difference between Trump and the American establishment, that every step Trump is trying to make, this establishment is trying to block or subvert. And I think that world peace in the final analysis will depend on that, because the big worry is that even if Trump finds an understanding with Putin and with Xi Jinping, what will happen in America? Will the establishment nix all the efforts by Trump to improve the relationship with Russia and China? And will it be lasting? And that is a question which requires the American population to give support to Trump, to basically back him up so that he can pursue the policies he has promised in the election and in many rallies. And, in a certain sense, that is the question of world and peace. So the American population, must become active. They must demand the 4 laws of LaRouche, because, that is the economic expertise which is required right now. But, this declassification is not just the question of the coup. It has much, much larger implication concerning the true nature of the United States.